Hello, race fans, EKN Nation. Welcome to a new edition of our Face2Face show. It is Wednesday, May the 24th. I myself, Rob Howden, down in Indianapolis. I'll be out at Indianapolis Raceway Park this weekend for the Carb Night Classic, part of the USF Pro Championships. David, of course, on the shelf for a couple of weeks, spend some time at home with the family before the next race comes up. We're kind of in a little bit of a break in the action in terms of national events. Some regional racing has already been happening. Route 66 last weekend at Newcastle Motorsports Park. A lot of regional racing, David. We've talked about this before. It's kind of a time for some regional racing to get rolling, get going here right now before we get back into national competition.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Essentially, it's August in USA.
That's right.
where Europe and Italy take August off to kind of regroup and reset. We're taking essentially on the national level the month of May off. As you said, regional programs are getting going, and a lot of club races are getting going because again, in the northern hemisphere, we didn't get to race very much recently. So it's almost going to be 80 degrees this weekend. So certainly racetracks are booming right now. Karting tracks are booming with lots of people there. But yeah, nationally wise, I'm actually writing a column about it. Maybe we need to take the month of May off to kind of regroup because
that's a great topic.
January through April was just insane busy. So, race teams didn't even get to go home. Some trailers have been gone for 5 months alone. Yeah. So it's a lot of stuff to kind of sort and figure out. I mean, it's a great thing for the sport to be busy, but there's always that time to where you kind of need a refresher, no different than the week you give me to kind of break away from all this monotony.
So jealous when you do that.
I know, shut everything off and actually look on social media at friends instead of racing. So
I hear you. But listen,
yeah,
you're right.
You always need that kind of regroup. So that's
January,
that's
February,
exactly
March, April. It's full throttle.
It's full throttle. West Coast, East Coast.
Exactly that. Yeah.
That's the thing. You got teams that are living in Florida for 2 to 3 months. Especially this year when we had the Orlando month of everybody going to Orlando. So it certainly puts a little strain on, especially some of the West Coast based teams, or even the Central Coast team or central of the country teams. So again, something to think about and kind of mull over. And as we get into June, national level racing is going to return with Supercars USA Spring Nationals in Utah and a lot more races to follow. Yeah.
And listen, I mentioned Route 66 having their first event last weekend at Newcastle. Again, that's part of an interstate series, both Indiana and Wisconsin for Route 66. But the Ohio Sprint Series is what we're talking about today. Kris McCrone is going to join us. Those of you who have been around for the last number of years know about the Buckeye Karting Challenge. It was a major program, a lot of 206 racers, and it was big. It was huge, in fact, in terms of racing in the state of Ohio. Kris McCrone has come in. The former owners of the Buckeye Karting Challenge kind of were having to focus back on work and family. Perfect time for Kris to come in and wanted to kind of pick things up and buy that program. He's got a bunch of different irons in the fire when it comes to the karting and motorsports. Of course, the Ohio Sprint Series is the changed name for the Buckeye Karting Challenge, but maybe even more so, David, the new racetrack in northern Ohio as well. It's going to have a full road racetrack, plus it's going to have a brand new kart track, the Lorain Ohio Kartplex. We're going to ask Kris about that because, man, anytime we can get a new facility in the sport, that is a positive.
Yeah, especially that. We just saw Hamilton Karting Complex getting a reboost, a new name, obviously Canadian Mini Indy outside Hamilton. So in your neck of the woods there.
Half an hour from my house, yeah.
Now you don't have to go around Toronto to go to Goodwood. You have Hamilton.
Well, that's where I went. That's where I went when there was COVID. I went and drove there, and it was fantastic.
So again, I mean, we need that. We need more racetracks. Certainly, I have one in the state of Michigan. That's kind of the sad part. But thankfully, the numbers continue to grow there. So again, that's what we're kind of seeing. And then when you build a first class facility like what's going to be the Lorain Ohio Kartplex, I mean, it's going to drive people there. So that again, new people. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah, the Lorain Ohio Kartplex, part of the River Park. Was it Motorplex, River Park Motorplex, right? Yep. The whole thing with the big road course, but again, with both a competition track and a rental karting track, David, that's going to be huge, I think.
Yeah, Alan Rudolph did it right down at the Speed Sports, where the rental kart didn't even move. Nothing happened when a competition race was there. Now you have the ability to run both, but that's the great thing about 7 days a week is being able to run both. A competition side and a rental side. without any hiccups. So, but when you have obviously a massive event like United States Pro Kart Series, it's good to kind of focus on one thing or another.
Very true. Very true. So, folks, he's a new player in the game. Let's bring him in here right now. Kris McCrone from the Ohio Sprint Series and the Lorain Ohio Kartplex joining us. Kris, great to have you here on Face2Face with EKN. Welcome, and we got lots to talk about.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate taking the time and asking to share a little bit of the story.
I feel like you're as busy as we are now. I kind of think all the races I go to with USF Pro Championships karting, you've been going to the Rotax races out west, part of the Trophy Series with Race Rotax. We'll talk about how Rotax is going to be part of the Ohio Sprint Series. You're building a racetrack as well. It feels like you're kind of like me, like 24/7, 365.
Exactly right. I mean, if I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna go all in. I'm not interested in tiptoeing. So,
well, listen, let's get things underway before we kind of jump into the actual the series, the schedule of the Ohio Sprint Series, the classes that the world tickets you have for both Rotax and for Tillotson. Let's just start first and talk about why you did it. How and why did you decide to buy essentially the Buckeye Karting Challenge and turn it into the Ohio Sprint Series?
Yeah, it's a good question. It gets asked often by a lot of the industry professionals like yourself. And there's two main factors occurred. Last summer, Scott Smith made a passive comment to me. And I knew Scott since I was a little tyke. When I raced, he was racing at the time, et cetera. So I've known him for many, many years and rekindled a good relationship and friendship the last 3 or 4 years. And when we were chatting at one of the events, he made a comment and said, yeah, he's like, it's we're looking possibly to sell. I said, really? Why? And he said, it's just becoming a bit of a challenge with schedules. Scott Benton and him partnered up and started the series, and Benton had an opportunity to go into the insurance industry with some of the other karters that we know that work in the similar industry, and he's crushing it, right? So he's doing well, but like any other venture, no different than me in this venture, you got to go all in. And it's easy for me to be involved in 3 or 4 or 5 different things related to racing because it's the same focal, it's the same vertical, so it's, but to do racing and then go sell insurance, that's very difficult, right? Because he travels out of state for it and stuff. So I just made the comment to Scott. I said, hey, if you're really serious about it, Smith, let me know. I said, the worst thing that can happen to me is building a multi-million-dollar facility, and then the state series in the state I'm building the track goes away. Like it would be a horrible situation for me. And so it was a couple months after that. He reached back out to me and said, yeah, Benton's really considering getting out. So we came to an agreement and terms that were fair and equitable. And the only demand I had was I said, okay, hey, Benton, I know you don't have time for it, but Smith, you got to be willing to stick around this year and help, because there's a lot of nuances in basically series ownership and relationships that you can't just flip a switch, right? So he agreed. So he's helping. He's going to be here throughout the year with us. He'll be present at the first race the whole weekend with me. And then the remaining 2 weekends, he may not be present the whole weekend, but he'll be around to support and help. But that was the agreement. And so it worked out. And the reason we changed the name, it really came down to going back to the roots. When I was talking to Scott Smith, and I raced with guys like Pearl Gamble and these guys, these industry like veterans, right?
Yeah. Well,
it was called the WKA Ohio Sprint Series when I was a kid. So we were bullshitting about it, right? And that's the only reason for the name change. It had nothing to do with, we wanted to rebrand the series or anything like that. They had 5 great years and tremendously successful. Indeed. And if we're going to go back to the roots, which I think we'll talk about more in the show here about why Rotex, why Tillotson, all those funnel down to one reason. We want to take the regional karting series and make it A, critically affordable for people, and B, give the drivers an opportunity to go race outside of Ohio with some of the funding paid for. And that's what happened back in the Ohio Sprint Series in the 90s. I mean, you'd run that series and you'd get picked up to go to another big event somewhere else, right? And it would be partly funded, whether it was ticket created or if it was you had RLV and Horsemen that were throwing money at these races, not cash, but saying, hey, if you win, you get this, right?
Yeah.
And it was, so the back to the roots comment was made. And I said, that's it. That's going to be our campaign. We're going to go back to the roots of what the series was as our branding mission. So we're excited.
I like it.
We're excited about it, but I'm sure that the proof would be in the pudding, right?
That's right. You got work to do.
You got to talk to me in October, right?
That's it. We'll reschedule for that for sure. Let me pull it up here. So here you go. You've got June 16th to 18th. So about 3 weeks away from the opening round. Thompson Kart Raceway, of course, one of the legendary circuits that's been around Ohio for many, many years in Thompson, Ohio. Then August the 18th to the 20th. This is at your new track, River Park Motorplex, Lorain Ohio Kartplex. We're talking 4 months away for that one, and then a couple months later into, again, one of the jewels of Ohio, which the fact that they have MCC and now Lock as well, the Lorain Ohio Kartplex. Ohio is it's the hotbed right now. It's like California was, a number of years ago. So many tracks there. You've got the Motorsports Country Club of Cincinnati, the Bailiff's Place on October 20th to the 22nd. A pretty good gap in terms of races, a couple months between races. I'm sure that was kind of the idea, to kind of get off certain races, but a 3-race program as well, kind of condensing things from what the Buckeye did over the last couple of years.
Yeah, you're spot on. I mean, the biggest feedback I heard from parents last year is that we got lucky last year in a way. The MCC event that was supposed to be the kickoff event for the Buckeye Karting Challenge could not get raced and confirmed because they were repaving and they're running into delays. And so it ended up being a doubleheader at Thompson. So the parents made the comments that were being made was, wow, I'm really glad it's only 4 weekends versus 5, because the other series that these kids run, I mean, when you're averaging 120 kart count average amongst the 5 races last year, it's a pretty decent regional program, right? I mean, success wise. Well, a lot of these guys are running CKNA, they're running USPKS, they're running Route 66. And the dollars is one thing, but more important than the dollars is the time. It's the preparation. It's the, and all the things that go in with it. And so the parents were saying, man, I'm really glad it's only 4. So that's why when there was nothing confirmed for 2023 yet, when we acquired the series, I stepped down and I talked to some people that I trust, and I pulled Scott Smith aside. And I said, what if we do 6 races in 3 weekends? A double Saturday, Sunday, Friday practice day. I said 50% of our audience is already coming to the race. They're taking off of work on Friday anyways. They're pulling in at like noon, right? So they're already off. And so we didn't have any events booked and confirmed. So it was easier for me to try to manage 3 weekends to try to go more places. And it coupled with G&J and Camden, they're getting repaved this fall. So they had a shortened season to begin with. So September's their cutoff. There's no mid-September racing down there at all. So I'm like, hey guys, this is the opportune time to do this and try it and see what the feedback is. I'm not afraid to change it. And, we move forward at the end of the year and say, hey, it sucked, McCrone. You're an idiot. Okay, let's go back.
More.
Right. And I'm fine with
Chris,
that.
This is what David's been saying for so many years. Dave, I'll pass it over to you. You keep saying less is more, right? That you have a little less. There's so much racing going on right now, especially with you want those drivers in the state series to run their clubs. You want them to run the club races and then get to go to a couple of races where the best drivers from the clubs come together to go head to head for the supremacy in Ohio, right, Dave? That's what we've talked about so many years.
Yeah, less is more. And like we just talked about before we started talking with Chris, is January through April was just nonstop busy. Yeah. Now we're getting into a month of May where people can actually go, regional racing or club racing, or just go back and relax because now they have the time because the national schedule is not so busy. So yeah, essentially that, you got to pick and choose where you can go. And that's a great thing. And then if you do keep it at 3, you can always change the different racetracks. You can always go around, because that's a great thing about Ohio. There's 7, 8 kart tracks in the state.
Amazing. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Chris, we've rolled through the schedule. 3 great tracks, 1 brand new track that hasn't been built yet. We'll get to that at the end of the show. Yeah. Let's talk class structure. What are you carrying over from Buckeye? And then what are you bringing in? We've already mentioned Rotax. We already mentioned Tillotson. You're taking a different approach. We talked about this before we came on the broadcast. Different tire manufacturers, not one spec tire across the board. Give us a lineup for classes and maybe some of the motivation behind it.
Yeah, so we absorbed what existed with Buckeye Karting So they had sportsmen, they had junior, they had senior, masters, and 206. They had KA junior, they had Swift. I believe they ran last year micro, not mini. We made that change this year. We opened up to mini only, so you can be at any age, but you just got to run the mini package. And then junior, senior, and masters KA. And then they had a kid kart program last year, and then they had a shifter gearbox class, and they had tag and a couple other classes that really weren't taking off in our area. Yeah. And so the changes, what we got rid of is I got rid of just the blanket shifter gearbox category and the blanket just tag or X30, right? So got rid of that, and we opened up an open class, and this is legitimately open. We are teching CIK bodywork, and that's it. I don't care. You want to bring double B bombs on a sprint cart. I don't care what you do, right? You want to pull an old 4-stroke out that's, for sure would never pass anybody's tech. You can race it here, right? It's a legitimate open class. And we're hoping that people who have some stuff on the walls and have an old, dialed up Yamaha and things like that, and the old D2 pipe that would scream, right? We're hoping that some people pull it off the shelf and come race it, right? Because we want the event to be entertainment focused. We want the parents and the families that are there. We're going to be bringing in a live band every Friday night. We're doing a full cookout on Friday. It's going to be entertainment focused, right? So that's that class. And then I wanted a water cooled package, and then we'll talk about Rotax and how that kind of came to mix. So that's the Rotax class. And then we got rid of kid carts, but we did not get rid of kid carts as a whole. This was discussed on our podcast, and I think that, David, when you and I talked a little bit about this, about what was the reasoning behind it in one of our dialogues back and forth, I believe in the club racing atmosphere, and I believe the youth of our sport is the future of our sport. There's no secret there, right? But you got to give these kids laps. And when I was a kid, my dad would not change a single thing on my go-kart except for a gear until I did 1,000 laps. He's like, you need to understand racecraft. You need to understand situation. You need to be passed by somebody doing 60 miles an hour. When the very first time that happened, your butt puckers. You're like, whoa, what's going on, right? So, there's a lot you need to learn. And so I believe that the Ohio Sprint Series, being a legitimate state championship series that we portray ourselves as, we want to deliver that value. How many 5 to 8-year-olds are going to play for the state championship football championship in Ohio, or the soccer championship, or the hockey? Okay. No one. They don't do it at that age, right? It's all about development. It's all about reps and games and so on. Yeah. So we stepped up and said, we're going to work with 5 local clubs, and we're going to bring the Ohio Sprint Series to that club, that race, and we're going to sponsor every kid kart driver that day. So if there's 8 that show up, Ohio Sprint Series pays 8 entry fees. Wow. We then bring some staff with us to driver coach, to encourage these kids, to give them pointers. I don't have to manage the flags and doing all that. It's easy to walk in with 6 or 7 teammates from your series and ask some of the great drivers that we have, like the Ian Quinns of the world, and the Garrett Davises, the Brassels, who are from the area, who would love to go give back like that, right? Yeah. So we're going to go in, we're going to support that, and then they're still going to get points. They're still participating in the championship, but it's 5 races with 1 drop at clubs. And when it happens, now you're, a rising tide rises all ships is the adage, right? So if someone's going down there with a kid cart and the dad, and we're going to support, well, odds are other people are going to go race that club race too. So maybe they get an extra 15 or 20 entries that they never would have had that weekend. And that's our way of trying to truly support the club racing program and give these kids a lot of track time, right? And at those events, the goal is the kid kart class is the premier class that day. So they run last, get everybody in the fence, get the kids jacked up, right? It's not just trying to run them through and get them out the door, right? No, they're the premier class that weekend. So that's how we shifted the kid kart.
That's a different approach.
Yeah. So, and again, in October, we'll judge it, right? All right. The Tillotson and Rotax thing was, it started last year with Tillotson. We we began a relationship with them through Jake Motaz and Ryan Child down at Kart Rising, the importers in the East here. And with everybody having the challenges that they were having with the 206 stuff, I couldn't sell carts and I didn't have engines to put on, right? So it became a business decision to open up opportunities. And I really like the engine package. And then they have this thing called the T4 Nations Cup, which is a world final race. And what I learned is that, you can run regional series and they'll give a ticket for the class. So this year we're running junior and senior. And so it caught so much attention. We only had an average of 6 drivers that actually participated because it was so brand new. And people were like, whoa. But at the end of the year, everybody was like, this is unreal. Like, you actually gave a full ticket away to go to Spain. And we're like, yeah. And Tillotson stepped up corporately. They gave second place a 50% ticket, and then third place almost like a 30% ticket. So, you had Hunter Perry, Ian Quinn, and Elida make it to Spain. And it was an amazing experience. So I saw it as an opportunity. I'm like, okay, we want to continue with that program. But then Rotax came up, and I met with Jim and John Giacomelli. And I never raced a Rotax engine, so I have no personal experience. I got no affiliation whatsoever. It was strictly, hey, they also do this world final. And it was such an amazing experience in Spain. I asked them, I said, hey, can we run the Rotax in our series? And they're like, absolutely. And I said, well, I want some support. When they do it a little differently, they have a U.S. final race first.
Yep.
But they're willing to pony up as the Rotax West or East series does, where if you win the class, you get a fully paid ticket to go to Indianapolis or run Newcastle. And, and then there's second place and third place, right? So we saw that as an opportunity to partner with them. And I'm pretty impressed with the engine package itself. I don't know the history of the up and the down of the Rotax engine. I hear bits and pieces about what happened and how it happened. I don't have any, I really don't care. I believe that in our sport, you've got great product. You've got, IAME is a great product. You've got Vortex, it's a great product. You have all new OKN stuff coming out with some, Modena and TM, and you got the Gearbox guy. There's great engine builders out there. I love when you don't have a series that is so stuck on only running one engine package and one set of tires. Like, you can, and I understand the business decision behind it. I understand why series do it financially. I get it. But we did not want to build our program on the dollars of a sponsor. We wanted to build our program for the racer first. And so that's why we opened up the classes and the tickets. And the support has been great. We've got people that, we're well over 6 entries before the first event for the Rotax class, and we're more than that in Tillotson as well. We have drivers flying in that run these national series to rent a cart and an engine because they want to win a ticket. So it's getting a lot of momentum. And so as far as I know, we're the only regional series that offers 2 separate opportunities for a world final.
Interesting. Yep.
Yeah. And that leads to the tires. So Mojo's obviously a Rotax tire, and I talked to Dan Schlosser at Pitt, and they run them on their 206 class, and they last forever. He was joking with me one night at the Ohio Valley or OVK swap meet. He said, he goes, Kris, I ran a set of tires, 52 heat cycles, and the only reason I changed them was because the cord started to show. And he said it was just as fast in the 206 at least, right? And so I said, all right. So I said, going back to cost, right? They're about $15 more a set than your MG or your Hoosier or something, but they last so long that I don't think many drivers are going to have to do more than 2 sets the whole year, and you're going to run just as fast. And so to keep the cost down, and then to get some synchronicity amongst tracks, I know Doug Marsh at Thompson, they went to Mojo straight 206. I know Fremont's doing it next year for what Scott Smith shared. We're going to do that for 206. But I didn't want it to also be, okay, you got to run this tire for every class. Listen, MG is the dominating tire for KA and IAME racing. So why the hell would I change that, right? So we're going to run the MG tire for that series, all the IAME races or classes, and we're going to run Mojo for the 206. And then the Tillotson tire is a Maxxis T4. It's a spec tire for that class. The only reason we're running it spec like that is because you have to race in that tire at the World Finals. I think it would be disingenuous to the drivers that make it to go and race on something completely different here than go there, right? So
that makes sense.
Yeah, no different than the Rotax. The Mojo is their spec tire across the world. That's what it is. So why would you run MGs on the Rotax? It makes no sense. Yeah, and like you said, it'll be interesting to hear, setup wise, how people are talking about setup, because you always hear, even just going from red, the hard tires to soft tires, how different, what class was before you, how that changes. So I'm interested to hear some of the feedback from some of the mechanics and tuners there about how, we go out after this rubber gets laid down and we have to change the way we kind of approach things. So that'll be cool to hear.
Yeah. And so I have a friend of mine who's a scientist at a pretty large tire company in Akron, Ohio. And he was reading all the data sheets for me. And he said that the Mojo tire has more raw rubber material than any other tire we're running. So when you hear these stories, right, that, oh man, we're in Vegas and I'm walking out there and I can't, there's no rubber left in the track at all, right? And I don't know if the compound has changed at MG. I got no idea. The bottom line is it's a spec tire, so everybody's in the same problem that you got to. It doesn't matter. But when the Mojo, when I was out at that race in Phoenix and in Tucson, I mean, at the end of day one, you walk out there, your shoes will stick on the actual pavement. They put down some serious rubber. Now, I know there's more horsepower in that, but I'm interested to see the dynamic of that, because a lot of guys are tuning to a tire that, it's not as much rubber compound. It's got more silica, more plastic in it, and it'll be different. It'll be different for sure.
So let's roll into weekend structure then, because you bring up the tires, and so let's talk about how the weekends are going to run. Can I run one set of tires for the entire year? Do I need to have a new set of tires at X amount of time? Nope. Or it's just wide open?
Yeah. So
wow.
We're going to run where you have to present 2 sets of tires prior to your 4th practice on Friday. So we're going to run it like the Europeans do it at the World Final race. I learned it over there. It was a great way to manage it. You get 2 sets, and our Friday practice day is 5 sessions. So you get 5 sessions. They progress in a little bit length in time, the last 2 sessions. We don't do a happy hour or anything like that, but it's 5 legitimate sessions. Saturday and Sunday race days are the same. It's warm up in the morning, qualifying, pre-final, final. So Saturday and Sunday, you're on track 8 times. And then you have the last 2 practices on Friday. So that's a total of 10 sessions. You present 2 sets of tires. I don't care if they're new. I don't care if they're used. It makes no difference to me. You have 8 tires that are scanned. You have to use those 8 tires, any combination of them. You're not forced. You can run 1 set the whole weekend, but you've scanned 2. You have to use those tires from practice 4 on Friday through the rest of the weekend.
Oh, really?
There's no, I'm going to throw a different set for warm-ups on. No, you got 2 sets, and I don't care how you manage it, right? And the goal with that is to, in my opinion, cost. I mean, you go to some of these races, and people say, oh, well, it's a spec tire. Yeah, but if it's unlimited on practice day and it's unlimited in morning warm-ups, I mean, people go through 4 sets of tires at a club race. Some people are crazy, right? Yeah. And I don't want to say to somebody, hey, to compete on the tire, you need to drop $1,000 this weekend. No, I'd rather say, okay, in the 206 classes, you're going to spend $500 in 2 sets, and you can keep them all year. It doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
And you can go buy a used set from the guys in pit right now as your practice set. I don't care, right? And the same thing for the other classes too. So when you're running Mini Swift or I'm running KA Senior, you present 2 sets of MG Reds. That's all you can run, and they will be scanned. And we're gonna operate the weekend where, as you come into the grid, the tires are being scanned in 2 separate sets as you roll in. So they're going to be checked often, right? And obviously there's penalties associated with it. Anybody gets sneaky behind it, and it also presents the opportunity for people to say, well, what if you damage a tire? What if you get you have an extra set that you've already scanned? You don't need to come to me to get it approved. You go change your tire, right?
Yeah.
So that's the goal behind it. And again, I love the partnership with Eric at Kart Sport and MG and they're great people, right? But my goal in the regional program here is that, listen, let's take as many of the variables out of the equation and keep the cost affordable. So when this guy is right, or this young gal is right, and she's going to go run a USPKS event, she's going to go spend the 15 grand in tires when she runs that series over the course of the year, right? You're going to get the money. Help them learn at the regional series. And that's our goal.
Yeah,
I like it, Dave.
Real quick on the tire thing before we get more into series details. The T4 Maxxis, I didn't really talk about the how does that tire perform? Is it comparable to other brands and compounds out there right now?
Yeah, when we tested it all last year, it's very similar to an MG Red.
Okay.
I would say it's probably a little harder, than a Red, but when it's warm out, it performs exactly the same as a Red.
Yeah, so that's good.
Yeah, temperatures.
So it's good to kind of, because they're all three are very similar in that aspect. Then, because I think the D2s may be a little bit more softer and has a bit of better performance, but that's good to hear. Going back into the series details, have you confirmed any of the key figures that are going to be working there for this season?
Yeah, so that's one of the things that I was pretty adamant about, is we wanted to regulate the staff. And if I can have my goal is if I can have 90% of the same people at all three events, I would call that success this year. And so we do have a pretty dynamite team. So our race director is Nick Cotton. Nick raced locally here. He's from Great Britain. Raced for quite a while. He's got a great demeanor, cool head, knows the sport well, and he doesn't run the circuits, right? No, he's got no influence with anybody, and no one has any influence over him, right? So we're excited about him taking the helm as the race director. We have Gnarly Carly from the Stars doing the photography, right? So she'll be at our series. She'll be helping the registration on Thursday night and Friday, and then jumping onto the track, taking all of our photos for us. We have Tech is the one that we're finalizing right now, because the gentleman that we're working on, I'll keep his name out of it for now. He's got one weekend conflict, so I'm working through some logistics there, but it's a name you guys would all recognize. And then Kevin Greer on the timing and scoring. So he's a veteran when it comes to timing and scoring, and we've engaged him to not only facilitate all of our timing and scoring, but he's actually built a system that runs on the two different scoring platforms, right? So you've got two transponders that operate in karting. His system will actually pick up both those beacons and run it with Alpha Timing or Race Hero or Race Monitor. So he'll be facilitating that. And then the rest of the team, it'll all be published actually here next week. So I don't want to steal the thunder and make the announcement yet. Yeah, so it'll be published then. Yeah, they'll all be there, and from flaggers to the tech people and our registration personnel, but they'll all be the same. And we're running the CIK light system in all of our races too. So much like the Stars the Championship Series, we're not going to have many corner flaggers. You're going to have track marshals, working out there, but we won't have to have actually people carrying the flags. So we're excited that it gives the regional person a little bit of the flavor of what some of these other series are going to be doing and how they operate. So we're excited about having the technology there too.
Right now, folks, you are watching our new Face2Face show with Kris McCrone from the Ohio Sprint Series and the Lorain Ohio Kartplex. You may be listening to the podcast right now. Of course, that will be on the EKN Radio Network. Kris, you talked about the schedule, the class structure, people you have working. You mentioned to us before we came on the show some intricacies of how you're actually going to run the weekend a little bit, and some other things going. So, how is the schedule lined up for these races? And then we're going to go on and talk about the potential for a state final and the Ohio Kart Week you're putting together.
Yeah, so the only functional change that we made to the actual operating schedule that is worth talking about is qualifying. Our qualifying is going to be 6 laps qualifying, so it's not a time session. You go out, you're first, you leave the grid, you come get the green flag, you get 6 laps. We are going to take your best 3 laps and average them for your qualifying order. We were kind of modeling this over. Everybody has an opinion on this, right? P-pick, qualifying, stagger, right. This, run an extra session for the top 8 guys and all this other stuff. And I frankly, I like all the ideas, right? They're all good ideas to try. And we landed on the concept of an average because the number one complaint I get is, oh man, I got screwed. Someone ran me off the track.
That's right.
So broke the track.
I was on a flyer.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. I don't know.
My driver wasn't on.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I don't know what flyer you were looking at, but it wasn't a flyer on the,
That's
on
right.
the stopwatch. No, so it eliminates the excuses and says, okay, if you're truly as good as you think you are, post 3 of them. And, you've got to manage your tires. Remember? So you've got 2 sets. This is, this all goes into the game, right? So that's the concept we're going to try this year. And again, this is another October moment, right? We're going to find out what happens.
Well,
right?
I mean, Kris, to back that up, the greatest spectacle in all of racing does a 4-lap average.
There you go.
Why not follow that race that we're going to watch this Sunday?
That's very true.
I mean, that for myself, that was probably the most dramatic qualifying weekend we've ever seen in Indianapolis 500 history. And just because everything was so tight. And, you look at a lot of these classes where you have, the fast lap within a 10th or 100th of each other, or even 1,000th. You got to do that 3 times in a row. Like that could, it's certainly going to make qualifying that much more dramatic.
Yeah.
And especially
saying, Dave.
What's that?
Got to give 3 good ones.
Yeah.
Right?
Got
to give me 4 good. Got to give me 4 good ones.
Got
to get 3 good ones. I love it.
But the great thing is the parents won't know watching their phone. They're going to have to wait. So it adds to the drama of Kevin, making sure all that's done and posted and boom. And so that results window is going to be a busy one in the morning. So I love it. I love the idea.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, listen, we're not short of good ideas in our sport, right? I think one of the things that advantages I have is because I'm the new owner, the new operator, because we're building a facility. It's a new facility, right? I can try a lot of crazy shit right now, right, guys? Like I can do that, and I don't have to suffer many consequences yet. I don't have a track record right now, right? Yeah. If it's abysmal failure, I can just change it.
That's
right.
True.
Other guys, like right now, like I'm out, Bailiff at MCC, he's got a great program down there, right? The Pro-Am karting package is amazing, but he's got history. You change it there, you got 100 people that are upset. Mine, listen, you agreed to come try it for the first time, right? I recognize them. It's a different dynamic for me.
I love it. I love it.
So we'll see.
It's different. Listen, we've all done the practice qualifying pre-final finals for 20 years, right? I like the fact that some series are trying some different things for sure.
And it doesn't put the focus, like you talked about tire management. It doesn't put the focus on nailing that one fast lap. Right? It's about being consistent over those 6 laps that you do get for qualifying. So you don't get the people who have got a 5-minute qualifying session who sit in the grid with until 3 minutes to go, and then they all go out and they try to go out together.
Too.
Yep.
Yeah.
That too.
That's
that guy's problem.
I hate that so much. Oh my! They go out and crawl behind each. Oh, it drives me nuts.
Yeah. You got 6 laps, right?
All right. So you keep mentioning October. If you don't get tarred and feathered, let's talk about what you potentially have planned for next year, 2024, and Ohio Kart Week. Is that going to be? That's not this year. That's next year, right? You're looking at next
24.
Year.
Yeah.
So
24.
you've got Ohio Kart Week, and you've got a state championship race, a state final. Obviously, and I posted this on when I think I retweeted our deal on EKN about having the show with you tonight, and how just Ohio is lining up right now to be one of the kind of really good spotlights for American karting right now. Of course, with MCC, the legendary tracks in Ohio that have been there for so many years, and of course now the Lock coming up as well. Talk about the state final, state championship, and what is Ohio Kart Week that you're talking about?
All right, well, I'll cover the state championship concept and idea first, because I think the Ohio Kart Week that's a pretty cool one. So the state championship idea is pretty simple. The goal is next year to run 3 weekends like we have right now. That's the plan. Like you get, if I don't get tarred and feathered over the idea, right? and then run a final weekend. So you think like national runoffs. You think like in other sports. I think one of the biggest problems that we have in racing, for the brand new parent, it's hard to understand the dynamic. You go from kid kart to a micro to a mini to now you're a junior and then I'm a senior. Like it's in hockey, it's U10, U12, U4, right? And baseball and cheerleading and volleyball. The progression is simpler to understand. And so it's much like that. Our goal was to say, okay, hey, every sport has a championship game. So you can win the Ohio Sprint Series title, and then you'll be, if you're in the top 15, 20 drivers, it's going to be capped per class. You get invited to the state championship event. And that event is going to crown the state champion. So you win one event, you're the similar structure, 3 days, right? But probably 2-day event. And you get crowned the Ohio Sprint Series state champion. So you can win your division through the year, and you earned it. And you earned it because of great tire management, and you earned it because maybe a little luck on the side, but you came prepared every weekend. You're managing 6 races. Here, I'm managing one event, and it's a condensed group. So it's not going to be 40 206 guys out there. There's going to be 20. The top 20 get invited, like a national runoff, right? And so that's the concept behind the state title. And we want to put some dollars behind that, to support things in the U.S. So, for example, I would love to work on a partnership with like a USPKS or a Stars or something like that and say, okay, hey, every state title winner gets something from one of those next series for the next season, right? Whether it's entry or because now you've motivated someone who's won and you're congratulating them and saying, hey, great job. Your next step is to go run that series, go run a national circuit, right? Yeah. And show some of that progression. So that's the goal with the state stuff.
Let me stop you on there. So you have to be a Ohio State or Ohio Sprint Series competitor to be able to go to that championship. So nobody can come in and do a one-off, is what you're saying.
Nope.
So like people from that state up north can't come down and
you can't do a one-off. Okay. Nope.
All right. What if you're an individual club champion?
Yeah.
From the state of Ohio.
From the state of Ohio.
Say Adam or Atkins Thompson club champion. What about that? That could be your additional entries.
I like that. So I like the concept. So listen, it's a work in progress, right? So I like the idea of partnering. I would just need to have them have their series wrap up prior to the actual final event. Right?
You just think about how that would be an all-star race, right? You've got your top 20, and then this club champion, that club champion, this club champion. All of a sudden, that lineup is like it's Ohio.
Yeah, it is, right? And you need to earn it. I like it a lot. So you earn your ticket there. You earn your invite, right? So some of our classes have 30, 40 entries.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and that's hard to manage. You guys know that. I mean, put those guys on a 4/10 mile road course. It's a mess, right? So you got to manage that. But now you're saying, hey, it's the top 20. I earned my ticket to go.
Yeah.
Go up, right? It's a big deal, And like in other sports, right? You got to earn your way to the final game.
To the runoffs or whatever. Yeah. Agreed. Yeah.
So.
All right. I like that.
I'm going to make a note of that one. Thanks, guys. I like that.
Do it. I'm there for you.
Okay. That's a freebie.
One of the things I love, I get Flow Racing because one of the things I love watching is Indiana Midget Week.
Yes.
I love watching it. Every night I'm watching Indiana Midget Week that week. I love it. Ohio Kart Week. This is interesting. It's thinking outside the box. I love it. Give us your thoughts on Ohio Kart Week. How would that play out?
Yeah. So you look at we're having Kart Chaser coming this year, and one of the coolest things of that Super Nats when you and Xander were calling the show on the shop that my kids were back home and they were able to dialogue with me in text, and it's opened up the sport so much, right? And the next challenge that we have in karting is that our weekends are long. Grandma, can't come in and watch. Oh, I'm going to watch Johnny race. Well, he may have his first pre-final at 11, but he might not be on the track again until 4:30, right? So there's this huge gap, right? And so, the concept and the idea was, how can we garner attention from other Ohio individuals, fans, motorsport heads, right? But let them know about our sport. And so we're spitballing this idea, and I said, we need to do like a sprint week, like Ohio Sprint Week, where you've got karts every night and you bounce around. So the concept is you start Friday night. Maybe we start at G&J, right? And you're doing it in the summer. So even if the track doesn't have lights, you're still good until 9:30. It's not dark yet, right?
Yep.
So you run at 5:30 p.m. and you get hot laps. You get 5-6 laps. It's hot lap warm up and qualifying combined. So not 6-lap qualifying, take the best 3. This is legitimate. Post your best lap, right? Top 5 get positioned on their qualifying, speed, and then 6 to whatever is P-pick. It's a pure draw, right? And then you go to a pre-final and final. And we've mapped it out such that you can do 6 legitimate classes. And we go the southern area of Ohio would run Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. They'd run Tuesday a final as well. And then the North would also run Tuesday as well. It would start the North Series. So tracks in the South, MCC, G&J. You can call Port Washington or Adkins Raceway. That may be South, that may be North. I don't know where it will fall. But you've got 3 or 4 tracks. You can run a couple different configurations at them. And they get in and they get out. And it's a lower barrier of entry. We're not looking to charge $45. No, $20 an entry for the night. Get some corporate dollars behind it. And have the TV crew run the whole week. And so we're trying to work with Bally Sports Ohio and some other networks to actually maybe not show it live, but show the features of every race in Ohio. And then on the following Sunday, so now you've got 5 events in the South, 5 events up north, and then Sunday is the championship Sunday, where now you have all the points, South, North, etc. And again, this event is a qualifier. We're only going to have capped 20 guys per class, etc. You need to be in the points to make it to championship Sunday. And so we're believing this could be a big one. We think that it can help change the sport in a way that draws attention. And we can do, the finals are, if it's edited, it's 30 minutes. So you can get the TV programs around here to buy in Ohio, where some dollars and stuff, that's affordable to put on TV. Yep. Right? So now you've got, at 10 o'clock, they're going to go live with, MCC, Monday night, or Tuesday night Thunder from G&J, whatever we're going to call it, right? They're going to go live with those races and broadcast. And so that's the second piece that I think that we need help in our sport is get it to where people recognize, like motocross, get it to where people can actually see what we're doing. And so that's the concept came from. And we've talked to some corporate sponsors already. We've got some people that are willing to come behind it and big names from Ohio. I mean, Ohio's got a lot of Fortune 100 companies. Some of them serve the motorsport marketplace. And so that'll be a lot more information to come, but I hope to have it completely announced by December. And
that's outside the box thinking. I like it.
Yeah. So that's the goal. Again, next October, we'll see. It's a good idea, right?
I'm telling you what, I'm going to start looking at RV rentals because that sounds like a blast because, haul a trailer, and I feel like Brewster Baker. I won't have a 6-pack with me, but I'll have a different type of 6-pack with me for after the racing's done. But that just sounds like again, it's a vacation for a karting gearhead.
Cole, we need the Majestic Flyer again. We need just a trailer for put my cart and your cart in 2 carts. We're rolling.
Oh, yeah. It's on.
And so and to help with the travel, you look at down running the South Series. You have Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. If you wanted to run it, I'm going to take Monday off. Okay, great. Well, now you've hit 4 of the events. You got enough points. You can qualify for. So you go back to work Tuesday through Friday, and you show up to the final on Sunday. The North guys, they run Tuesday through Friday, and the tracks up north are all only 45 minutes to an hour and 15 from people. So you can get there by 5:30. You don't need to blow the whole day off, right? And then you'll get the crazies like you two who do make it a vacation, and they'll run the whole thing.
We work in the RV.
Yeah. We'll work in the RV during the day, and then once hot laps start, it's like, all right, shut the laptops off. Let's go do our thing.
What?
Yeah.
I mean, we'll have to hire somebody to work on the carts because we're terrible at that. But
well, you are terrible at that. We know that. Wow. Go.
Well, I was gonna say that you take that and you talk about the time, right? So 5:30 and you're done by 9:30, right? You got to come prepared because you're
Oh,
not going
yeah.
to have a lot of time, right?
No.
So so it's important, and I think that's part of that whole the feel like this is legitimate. Hey, I'm real racing. I need to outdrive you when my car is has gone off the deep end and it's not handling it all. I need to learn how to drive it to still stay with the pack.
I think we just hire Brandon Atkins to tell us about all the racetracks in Ohio.
Yeah. That's not a bad idea. All right, listen, speaking of track, let's wrap up this show. We're 50 minutes in already. Wow, great show. Let's talk about, I keep getting it wrong. Let's talk about the River Park Motorplex. That's the entire facility itself. Locke, the Lorain Ohio Kartplex is coming first, then the rental car property. I went to look at the Facebook page, saw some video of showing where everything is. Where are we? When's it going in? We're racing there in near the end of August. So how are we looking with the track? And man, it looks exciting.
Yeah, thank you. So we're still on target for everything. We met with the Ohio EPA to finalize a couple things today. As scheduled, they're coming in early June to start excavating and lay the track. The excavation and track laying takes a total time of about 30 days. It doesn't include curbs, right? But just we're on fresh land, so all the trees are gone. The engineers are doing their back and forth questions and confirm everything. They'll be staging for the equipment for the beginning of June, and they'll get out there and start cutting the land. Start building up on the land, right? Because we're on part of our properties on a landfill. So, but we have got a lot of natural elevation. The facility is going to have it's about 15 feet of elevation change 3 times in a lap. So it's going to be interesting. But the track will be laid first. All of our buildings are not going to be done by the event. We're going to be bringing in the porta potty bathrooms, everything else, and just scaffolding and everything else. But the tracks will be in and operational. We're on target for all that. And then our grand opening for the whole facility, which includes the indoor rental track, the outdoor rental track, the competition track, the RC track. We've got 8 simulators that are going to be on the first floor of the building. That facility opens April 2024, 100% complete. The goal this year is get the track laid, let it cure, and then get an event there. Learn, okay, what do we need to change going in next year, and then have a couple club races at the end of the year. We're going to do probably 3 or 4 club races, and again, just to learn, okay, what do we not do right? What do we need to change? As much of a process improvement as possible heading into the grand opening. So we're on track for that. I get asked the question like, okay, what if something goes crazy? We have a full contingency plan. It's been in place the whole time.
I have no doubt.
Yeah, all right. So and the contingency plan does not involve leaving the regional area at all. I'll give EKN the opportunity, a little bit of snippet, so people can come up with their own conclusions. Right? It involves a very, very, very large, very, very, very flat concrete pad. So
all right.
So we have a contingency, and it's 15 minutes from the track. So
does it have waterfront?
I don't want to tell people
are we going champ car racing again? What?
I don't want to make this announcement because then I'm like, some people are gonna be like, well, hey, bag your track, man. Let's do that instead. So I'm afraid but what my commitment is to the families of the Ohio Sprint Series. Podiums Sunday at our event on Father's Day. We will make the announcement on what the contingency is in the event it doesn't work out. So now everybody knows, right? Because my biggest thing was, you're not going to have to change hotels. None of that. It's the same geographical area. Here's the contingency plan if we get sideways.
That's good. That's really good. Yep. All right. So all in all, man, this again, like we said, anytime we get a new facility in the sport, it's just huge, right? We're losing some here and there every once in a while. Obviously, a net kind of even in California, losing Cal Speed, but picking up K1 Winchester. Again, Ohio with what the bailiffs have done to MCC, G&J, Atkins, still a fantastic track. That quintessential kind of club karting track that I think we need to kind of preserve all around the country. Then what you guys are doing, this is going to be huge for that region, huge for the state.
I agree. I think it's an opportunity, and listen, a lot of kudos to Ohio here, but you got a track just over the border, 45 minutes at Newcastle, and you got one the other way in Pennsylvania at Pitt. The whole region has got really good racing, right? Yeah. So I mean, there's a lot of stories about some IndyCar veterans that came out of G&J and came out of the local tracks here, right? I think it's an opportunity to bring it back. We have one thing that granted, down south in Florida and Texas, you can run 12 months pretty much no problem, even GoPro really. But what you have up in here in our areas, you got 4 seasons. So racing in the spring is a heck of a lot different than racing in the fall, right? And it's a lot different than the summer, right? And so when you get into the high moisture kind, it doesn't have to rain. You got enough dew on the track in October here that your racing rains until 10 o'clock in the morning, right?
That's true. That's very true.
And you think about the drivers that come from Europe, right? I think it was Joe Turney that made a comment on one of his interviews, that it's wet. You still race every day over there. There's no events get canceled. Nothing. That doesn't happen, right? In some areas like Florida, they have to cancel because they get like a typhoon that comes through. They don't, you know what I'm saying? It's not normal rain and moisture. So I think that bodes to the driver development side, right? And now you've got a whole region of tracks that can come together and do some pretty cool things.
And let's cap off with one thing too. I'll let you kind of expound on this, but you guys are going all in too. This is a full-on CIK track. You guys are going to the point where, hey, this is going to be big enough that we could have a world championship race or any major national event as well. Although it's going to be one of the jewels of Ohio and the Ohio Sprint Series. This place is going to be lined up where it could hold any major national event.
100%, Rob. I mean, I'm actually flying to Switzerland, to Geneva to meet with the FIA to make sure, because the ASN is ACUS out of Florida right now, and they've never done a kart track yet. So Mike Burrell has actually been a big help. He made some introductions for me and such, and some other guys, and so I'm flying there to meet with them to review our plans. They're doing the whole dramatization of the facility and testing everything, because we're going to get a level 1 certificate. So it will be able to hold any world final, any karting final for any series. That's the certificate that we want. We want to have some big series here next year. And we'd love to have some big finals on a world stage, which is in discussion, but that stuff takes time. But I expect by the fall we'll have a few series that you guys all recognize, that they'll have the lock on the schedule for next year.
Level 1 track, running Rotax. Maybe. Kris, let's wrap things up. Any final words? Obviously, you're excited. You're a couple of weeks away from getting things underway. That first race is obviously going to be big. People are excited, I have no doubt. Just any final thoughts?
Yeah, no, I just appreciate you guys a lot. I really appreciate what you guys do for the sport. You guys you're huge ambassadors, and I think this type of media right now these are the needle movers in our sport. I often say, you two, Rob and David, Xander. I mean, you guys are hands down probably the biggest needle movers of our sport at this time, and I think it's our job. Now it's the track owners, it's the team owners. We need to step up our game and start supporting the club level through to get more people there. And I, one way to do it is this whole TV thing. If we can get more people watching it, more people will come along and participate in it. So that's our job. You guys are doing your job. So I really appreciate what you guys have done and what you're doing. And we have to take some ownership of this one too.
I like it, Kris. Thank you so much. As soon as you get that Ohio Kart Week date, let us know so David and I can book an RV. We're going to roll.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be a team holiday. Bring the ladies down, have some fun. Yeah. Kris, thank you so much. We'll get you back in October. Hopefully you won't be tarred and feathered.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah.
All right, man. Folks, that is Kris McCrone from the Ohio Sprint Series and Locke, the Lorain Ohio Kartplex. David's phone blowing up over there right now. Somebody probably trying to.
Yeah, sorry.
Going to wrench for you or wrench an RV?
Yeah. I'm getting lots of messages about, you can drive for us. No.
There you go. No, that's not going to happen. Again, David, listen, we've been 20 years. We've been doing this to a certain extent, 27 or 28 for me. You've been in the sport for that long as well, but you look at areas, right? California was the hotbed for the longest time. Texas has always had a bunch of great races. Florida, all these areas, the Pacific Northwest. What's happening in Ohio right now, I think is unbelievably exciting. This new track, what the Bayless has done to MCC, the tracks again, like the stalwart tracks, like a Thompson, like Adkins, like G&J, like Camden, those are the tracks that are still awesome club tracks, that club level racetrack, and even regional level track, as we know. There's a lot going on in Ohio right now that's super exciting.
Again, I know what he's talking about with, the going back to the roots, because, the Division 6 with WKA, it was Michigan, Ohio. Like,
that's it.
The Pearl Gambles, like he said, would come up and the Michigan guys would go down and race them. So I know all about that. And so, yeah, there's always been a lot of great racers out of Ohio. And, it's cyclical, again, different regions produce different drivers at different times of generations or eras. And so, like he said, we got to start producing a little more. I think but Graham's the last Ohio driver right now. Then I don't even know if there's any NASCAR drivers from Ohio that are in there right now. So
I don't follow enough to know exactly.
Yeah. So
sure.
yeah, but in the past, you talk about Hornish and all these other guys that were coming out of Ohio. And so, yeah, you have a bit of pride, anytime I see a Michigan driver, making his way up through the ranks, I take pride in that. So again, I like that feeling. And again, he's got a lot of out of the box ideas, which is great. Yeah. I mean, that's always what we need, because again, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, we try something different or go back to what works, and that's the great thing. You try not to stir up a lot of stuff, but sometimes you got to think out of the box and come at with a different idea. And Buckeye Karting Challenge did that with the P-pick at a regional level. Again, we talked about that when it first started. So again, that whole quality, we had the comment that, Randy Reardon, he loves the idea. He races over at Norway at Concept Haulers, maybe that's something club racetracks should do, rather than P-pick. That way it kind of throws a little something. Or P-pick one weekend, do a 3-lap qualifying, or do the average lap the next time. So again, thinking out of the box. I love that idea. And again, the whole Ohio Kart Week is just, I like that a lot. Could you imagine doing that in Florida too? I mean, how many different Ohio, kart weeks we could get going on across the country, just off of this whole one idea.
Well, remember what he's saying. He's going to get tarred and feathered. We'll talk about him in October. Some of the best ideas come from failures that you then spin off of, right? Yeah. So they're trying some new stuff. I think it's fantastic. We'll see what people say. Well, obviously the industry needs to get behind it. The racers do. But the bottom line is a lot of great things happening in Ohio.
And one more thing, too, about the track build is, they're going to build the actual racetrack itself, try it a few times. If it doesn't work, they can change it and get it done before the winter comes again. So I love that concept. That's something I don't think we talked to him about before. So to hear that, I love that idea, because again, you may think it looks great on paper, but until you actually put a kart on there, you might not know. So it's a great way. And then once you get the track set, then build around it. So I love that concept.
Not bad, right? Well, listen, folks, that was Kris McCrone from the Ohio Sprint Series and the Lorain Ohio Kartplex, the Lock, as we'll be calling it, heading forward for the next number of decades. Great to have him here with us, and we will definitely get him back at the end of the season to kind of go back through, grade the series of everything that happened, all the awesome ideas they've come up with. We have a lot of more shows lining up. We're going to talk to Andy Saisman for the Rock the Park. That's going to be coming up soon. We'll probably check in with Brittany Loba as well from the Texas Sprint Racing Series. A bunch of more shows that we're going to have over the next couple of weeks. I'm traveling for the next 4 weeks in a row, so we're going to try to get them either from a hotel room like where I am now, or potentially back home in the home office in Canada. Otherwise, thanks for tuning in. If you're listening on the EKN Radio Network, we appreciate that as well. More podcasts, more shows, all here on the EKN Radio Network. Thanks, folks, for tuning in. On behalf of Kris, David Cole, myself, Rob Howden, bye for now.